Welcome back to another edition of Summer is Coming. I'm your host, Tiny Grimes, and always, from the beginning, from episode 1, is Imrahul, or Chris, as I call him. Imrahul, Chris, how you doing, man? Welcome back.
Doing good, man. Feels good to be back. I was missing the theme music at the beginning, but I gotta say the video aspect of this has
Oh,
really bumped up the production value.
yeah, I know. It's all me. Neil didn't have anything to do with that. He didn't design the background and all that stuff. It was my idea. He just executed it. That's all it was. So I will say, you got big balls coming back here, my friend. But welcome back. I mean, the way you left, you pretty much burnt the place down when you left. But it's cool. Like we repaired that.
Yeah, I did. I did rather leave the place in ashes with a certain large Canadian
Yeah, you
taking.
stuck me with Dark Naj. I mean,
Speaking of which,
that almost ended our friendship.
Happy Canada Day.
Happy what?
Canada Day
It's Canada Day.
is. That's why I'm wearing the Expos hat.
Well, it will not be when this episode is aired, but apparently it is when we're recording here on April 26th, 2012.
That's exactly right.
Yep. All right. Well, Chris, I have some interesting questions today. I was thinking the other day about plots because I started actually playing a deck that uses plots, like real plots, not just like econ plots, but actually real plots that do stuff. And it got me thinking 2.0 has so many awesome plots that I never play and would love to play if, say 10 of the plots we have didn't exist. So I made a list of 10 plots that I think are fantastic that I never play or maybe extremely rarely. And I'm hoping you've done the same.
I have done the same. I'll be interested to see how much crossover there is on our list. I have a couple of spicy inclusions that I think you might not have, but
Interesting.
I also suspect, since we are both the Jamie players that we are, that
Mm,
we're going to have a lot of plots in common. But
yeah.
let's do our best.
We're basically the same person in two bodies. It's kind of neat. All right, my first one is a noble cause. Now, this plot, it gives you a lot of gold, but it has low initiative. It gets hit by naval superiority. I just can't find a spot for it. How about you?
I've actually been, strangely enough, finding room for Noble in a lot of my decks.
Really?
Play a large number of lords and ladies, and the extra +2 reduction really helps.
Wait,
You're
you
trying to get
play
Brand on the
lords?
table.
You play lords and ladies in your deck?
I
Yeah,
do.
no, I was just kidding. Noble cause. Everybody plays noble cause. That's not on the list. All right, my real number one that I want to play in every deck. And when this plot came out, I said, Chris, this is literally going in every deck. And you were like, name one plot deck it's gonna fit in. And I was like, oh yeah, oh yeah. And I had a really hard time naming one. And that's close call. And I have started squeezing it in more decks. It doesn't really feel like it fits, but it just seems so good in this environment where we're playing three of majorly important cards. People haven't gravitated towards playing winter plots yet. They will soon. Close call will be dead. But so basically, you get 5 gold, draw, and you get to rescue Tyrion when he dies, or Tywin when he dies, and perhaps play him again. To me, this is the plot that every time I look at it, I go, oh yeah, this is going in. You know what? This may be the deck where 2 go in, and I'll call you, and I'll be like, Chris, I'm putting 2 close calls in, and you'll be like, I bet you put 0 in, and I'm like, oh yeah, I'll take that bet, and then I put 0 in. How about you, Chris? You finding room for close call yet?
In a couple of decks I have, including one that we might talk about later.
Oh,
Spoiler alert. But I think that Close Call fits into this category of plots that we don't play now,
mm,
but are going to see a lot more play going forward for pretty obvious reasons at this point.
mm.
I think there's a second category of plot that is plots that we wish we found room for, but they're usually. Are you still there?
Yes, I am.
Sorry, my video froze.
Yeah, I see
Uh,
that.
let me adjust this real quick.
It's okay. I don't mind the frozen video. It looks pretty funny. You look very thoughtful.
Yeah, this is very strange. My mouse is not moving.
Yeah, don't worry about it. Just continue. We'll be fine.
Carry
It'll
on.
shake up.
All right. Um, anyway, the second category of plots I'd say are plots that are kind of the outlier, the eighth plot in your plot deck, things
Yep.
that you really wish you found room for, but but really are just not quite enough when you have to make room for a reset, when you have to make room for economy plots, like you said. There's
Confiscation?
A confiscation.
Oh, I hate playing that plot so much. It takes up a precious slot to get rid of one attachment. Ugh.
Yes, yeah, it's
Ugh.
very frustrating.
Hate it. All right. I will say this, though. I think Close Call gets worse as we move along. I think there's going to be more winter plots and less opportunity to actually get the draw, which is the whole point to me of playing the card.
Interesting. Okay, I can see that.
But we'll see. All right. So what's your number one plot that you just can't find room for?
So, strangely enough, you mentioned a winter plot. A plot that I really wanted to find room for recently and just not been able to, has the same stats as Close Call and is itself a winter plot. And that would be Snowed Under. I think that plot, it's kind of a sneaky effect where it doesn't seem like it would do much, but being able to control the initiative and really be 100% sure that you're going to lock it down if you need to is something I think a lot of people overlook. And the 5 gold obviously really helps, make sure you can power out what you need to do that turn as well.
Yeah, I really like that plot a lot. I think it's incredibly strong. I was playing against a guy who was playing some sort of like stark, weird ass deck. Like, it was a bad deck, but it had two copies of Snowed Under, and I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. Like, he had Winterfell, so he wanted to have tons of winter plots, and I had more power than him, so he was like, I'm going first every time, and it was kind of cool. I agree. Snowed Under is one of those. I feel like it's a really hyper-specific plot. Like in a Greyjoy deck where you're playing Salty Navigators, it just becomes substantially better because you could really control who goes first then.
Definitely. What's next on your list?
Let me see. I think my favorite plot that I never get to play is Game of Thrones. Like, I play a lot of Lannister. I've been playing exclusively Martell lately. Game of Thrones just seems so good in a deck that has, like, a tainted, endless intrigue. It just feels like a natural fit. But there's just so much Lannister hanging around with lots of intrigue icons, and it's so low gold. I just can't quite fit it in. Like, back in the day when people were all crazy about Greyjoy and stuff, I was like, oh my goodness, this is just death to Greyjoy. But it just feels like it doesn't quite do enough against enough decks, and when it misses, it's total disaster.
Yeah, it's another one of those plots where some games you're really eager to find the right spot for it, and it'll be a huge blowout. Mm-hmm. And other games, it'll be sitting just dead in your plot deck going, well, I hope this game doesn't go 7 plots because this could screw me whenever I have to play it.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to a time where some major event, I will bust that out, and it's going to be a great plot. Like, there's going to be some meta develops that's a little bit weaker to intrigue than normal, and I'm able to really take advantage of it. And I think that'll be fun. But I don't think today is that day.
True.
All right. So what's your plot? What's your next one?
Next on my list is Feast for Crows.
Yeah.
It has a bit in common with my last choice of Snowed Under, in that it's really good as sort of a finisher plot when you are ready to just get the game over with. Being able to get that extra 2 power and just get over that hill is sometimes what you need. And the 6 gold is nothing to sneeze at either. But the fact that it's only 2 more power and it's got that super low reserve, so you can't play it anytime early in the game. Yep. It's not a very flexible plot, and for that reason, I found myself wanting a little more out of my plots. But I wish I could fit it in because it's like I said, it can end the game on the spot.
Yeah, I had it in a plot deck for a while. It was a Barra deck that was just trying to basically win off dominance, and even in that deck, the low flexibility of it was so frustrating because it'd be like, oh, I could use the 6 gold here, but why does it have to have a reserve of 4? And sometimes I would just feel like I had to play it, and then I have to discard a card because of it, and I'd be really frustrated. And it was a hard plot for me to fit in, but you're right. Like in a 10-card plot deck, that thing probably makes it in.
What's next on your list?
Next on mine, let's see. I'm going to say Fortified Position. Fortified Position.
Finally got some crossover. I like it.
Yeah, it's a plot that just looks bonkers good until I look at my own deck. I'm like, so let me get this straight. I can't activate Mel this turn. I can't activate Bob this turn. I can't get 2 gold with Tyrion. I can't do, Nymeria. With all of my cards that I ever play have cool abilities, that is why I play them. So, yeah, it's going to totally blow up my opponent that turn, but it just always seems like it's that card that looks like it's going to backfire too hard, and I just haven't had the balls to really just go with it.
Yeah, I feel similarly about it. I think a couple of mitigating circumstances for it are going to be as the game grows, and at some point there will be a deck that's less about the text on the characters than it is just getting stuff done based on challenge math, and obviously it'll fit right into that deck.
Yep.
And it's funny I say that because I feel like 2.0, even more than 1.0, is about challenge math a lot of the time.
Mm-hmm.
But it's about this weird amalgamation of challenge math plus bluffing events plus all these other things. And things like fortified or supporting the faith, things that stop you from bluffing.
Yeah.
Marching orders is really bad for that. Those really negatively impact your game plan. Even kind of.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's so amazing how important doing things like I'm intriguing first, not to whittle your hand down, but so that now I can bluff the put to the sword because I have Tyrion out. I get my 2 gold, and now you have to way overcommit on defense because you're worried.
Yeah, absolutely. My next plot, going with a theme here, is yet another closer, and that would be Rise of the Kraken. A plot that in first edition was fantastic, and in second edition, if anything, their unopposed theme is almost more pushed than it was in first. But first of all, Greyjoy isn't doing so hot in general, although potentially with all their saves and Valor coming back, they could see a resurgence. But second of all, the 2 gold hurts a little more in second edition than it did in first. And really, I just find I'm again looking for a more versatile plot. It's very fixed on when you can play it and the board circumstances under which it will be a good plot for you. And I haven't found that to be the case enough in the Greyjoy decks I've built to justify it.
I'd have to disagree with that just from the perspective of if I play Greyjoy, I'm probably playing that plot. But I will agree with it from the perspective of what's Greyjoy? Like, to me, playing Greyjoy main house is the last faction you'll see me play. Like, my biggest problem with 2.0 is how scripted the game is. Like, okay, I'm going to play a big guy, I'm going to win by 5, I'm going to put to the sword, I'm the best. And Greyjoy takes that and pushes it all the way to the extreme of like, I am going to do all these things to get unopposed. Bah. Oh, you decide to intercede with my plans, even the slightest bit? Ah, well, geez, then I'm just wrecked. Like, to me, that is not how I enjoy playing the game. So, from that perspective, yeah, I don't ever play Rise of the Kraken, but it's not for the same reason as you do. And with that, I'm going to throw in an exact same scenario, and that is pulling the strings. I've never once gotten to play that plot because I have not played Tyrell Main House since it came out, but that plot is freaking crazy good. People play it against me all the time, and I'm like, oh, cool, a Tyrell deck, so this will be a free win, and it always is. But the one turn when they play pulling the strings is like their one good turn, right? They're like, watch this. I'm actually going to do something cool with Tyrell this turn. And then you can stop my face in all the other turns.
Yep. And again, that made my list as well. So another crossover there. Yeah, I don't know whether there's much more to say about it. Like you, I haven't played a lot of main house Tyrell. I've tried it a couple times, but not very seriously. They haven't been real studious attempts, just more trying to see what the Arbor's about when that came out and things like that. So, but I agree. Whenever somebody flips pulling the strings, it's intense. It does things, but it's going to take more than pulling the strings to get Tyrell back into the scene. And once it does, it's very possible that plot will be in every Tyrell deck.
Yeah, I would guess it will be. Another plot that I never play is Heads on Spikes. and I never played this plot, and I feel like it's a bad plot until people play it against me, and then it makes me so angry because it either hits a good character and blows you out, or it hits a crappy character that you needed to play as claim soak, or it hits the awesome event that you were saving to wreck them, or it hits your milk of the poppy that you were going to wreck them with, or it always hits a good card. So it's one of those plots that, like, I can't quite wrap my head around, and I've been playing a Martell deck that actually plays that plot, and it's freaking amazing. So I don't understand why I don't have one in every deck.
Yeah, I feel like it's one of those plots that at some point is going to have to cycle back in. It's not bad gold. It's not great gold.
No.
It's got really good initiative. And like you said, the random intrigue claim, whether or not you hit with the blowout casino 2 power and kill your best character effect, can really swing the game by itself, regardless of what might happen. And especially with Valor coming, and it's funny how much we've continued to mention the effect of Valor on a variety of these plots, but this one, with Valor coming, people are going to start being more conservative about what they play, so it's going to become a better mid-game play. It's going to be a plot that, people are saving cards back for the inevitable Valor, especially characters, and it's going to get better.
Yeah, I had a really fun play with it the other day. So I was playing Bruno with my Martell deck, and I had gotten a huge lead on him with all kinds of cute plays, but he was playing a Lannister deck. So we knew eventually he would turn it around, right? He does. He finally gets a board full of Lannisters. I'm able to sneak out Dom, knowing what's coming. 2 power short. And so we go to the next plot, and I know I got heads on spikes. I either win here or I lose. So I flip heads on spikes, get a smile on my face and say, "What are my odds, Bruno?" And he looks very glum and says, 100%, and reveals his 4 character hand to me. Oh, and then he doesn't realize I'm only 2 away. And I'm like, all right, that's game. He's like, what? What do you mean that's game? Because he knew he had to win. There was no possible way I could close it out now. The game was over. And then, boop, ball game. So
That is absurd.
yeah, that was a very satisfying, fun win right there.
To see Nate French's severed head smiling up at him just for the weapons that's real good.
Yeah, it's funny how that plot was so big forever, and then I feel like what happened, at least in my decks, is I started playing more big guy put to the sword decks where I needed more income, and so that just came out for like a Calling the Banners or some income plot that was 2 more gold than that, and just helped me fuel that 1 more Jamie or that 1 more Gregor that I really need to get out.
Sure.
So I think as we move to more control-y decks, and like you said, with Valor in the meta, I think that plot could be one of those, like, 1 of in every deck, and the real cheeky person has 2 and completely bones you. So that's going to be interesting. All right, what else you got for us?
So my next one's a little bit of a curveball.
Ooh.
My next plot is the second copy of Calling the Banners.
Oh, so, that's a huge curveball. Okay.
So obviously, Calling the Banners, you see it in a lot of decks. It's got initiative. It can be an econ plot. Mm-hmm. And I always want to sneak that second one in there because of its great initiative. Like that can matter a lot late game. But I always find myself looking at my plot deck and going, no, I really need more traditional actual money plot, something that's always going to help out. And I always want to sneak that second one in, and I never get a chance to. Yeah. And even in general, Calling the Banner specifically, but even in general, I find myself not playing 2 copies of a plot a lot more than I expected going into 2.0. I thought that rule change was going to be something where you're going to figure out your best plot, you're going to play 2 of that plot, and then pick 5 more, and it just hasn't happened.
Yeah, I actually was running 2 copies for a while. As I moved into the big guy deck, I was running Noble Cause, 2 Calling the Banners, because I had decided trading was bad. And then when I realized I was an idiot and that trading with the Pentoshi was amazing, that ended up being a swap in. It was a clear swap. I took out a second calling and put in trading. So, but I totally agree. Like, the stats are crazy. I've been facing more smaller boards lately, and maybe it's because of the deck I'm playing where it's a little bit more attrition based. Like, I play first no, and then I'm whittling their deck down or their board down with like Gaston Gray and stuff like that. I find that, like, I'm just happy I don't have Calling the Banners in this deck, because I'm looking at it, I'm like, when would I play it? So, but yeah, I agree. Having two, and that was a good curveball. You got me there. Um, a plot that I haven't been playing, and it's more a whole class of plots, and that's two claim plots. Like in first edition and even in second edition, I've had decks where I really wanted to go all in on kill and had lots of two claim plots. Like I had a cool army deck where I had like Muster the Realm ×2 and Winds of Winter and Sneak Attack, and it was awesome. Except for that, it lost every game. It was a terrible deck. But other than that, it was great. And I just like every plot deck. I'm like, I really should have Winds of Winter in here because it's such a good plot that like if I can sort of like start turning the tide my way, this will really clear it out. But more and more the decks I've been playing, like I said, I've just caved into the whole, like, I'm going to play a big guy, I'm going to put to the sword your best big guy, and I don't really care if you have 10 chuds, because I'm going to kill all your big guys, and then I'm going to win. And so I feel like Winds of Winter doesn't fit as well into that as just money.
Yep, I feel similarly, and honestly, the two claim doesn't feel as impactful yet as a two claim plot felt before. I don't know whether that's just my personal perception, but anytime somebody flips a two claim against me, I'm like, yeah, that's bad. But if they're doing that, they're giving up so much else because none of the two claim plots have any sort of real effect right now.
Yeah.
With the possible exception of Rise, which we've already discussed. But
Sneak Attack has an effect.
True. I'm actually usually actively happy to see Sneak Attack. Quite honestly.
Like, awesome. This person's probably not that great. This will be wonderful.
Yeah. But I'll be interested to see if two claim gets pushed a little more going forward, and the ones we have are sort of the training wheels two claimers to show people like, oh, that's a thing that can happen.
Yeah.
And we get some two claimers with some real teeth with some good effects. Like we've seen like a Fear of Winter or something.
I think even with Valor, two claimers become much better. And this is something we'll talk about more, but it's the idea. It's not just post Valor, it's pre Valor. People are less likely to go bananas, right? Like now, people just vomit out their hands and like, wah, I have 9 awesome guys. Go ahead, two claim me. Whereas when you're holding guys back for a Valor, two claim can really be impactful.
Yes. Yeah. I think that's true. I wasn't going to bring it up because I don't want to just keep saying Valor over and over again, but it's
Valor.
a real,
Valor.
It's changing everything, regardless of how good it is.
Yeah, we'll get to that in a minute. All right, any other plots for you?
I have one. Here to Serve is one that when, going back, I hate to keep going back to first edition, but
don't do it. People get so mad.
I know. You can't say those words, and this is a second edition game now. Ignore edition. But it was a real plot. It was almost in every plot deck for a good 2 years in first edition, and in second, we just haven't seen the same quality of Maester to get with it, and the economy didn't improve, so it essentially got less gold.
Yep.
And so it's just sitting there waiting for us to get some more solid Maesters to grab.
I feel like that should be a 4 gold plot in 2.0. Maybe I'll change that opinion as really impactful Maesters come about. But yeah, it's one of those. There's a couple plots that when I saw them, I assumed it'd go in every deck. That was Building Orders, that was Summons, and that was Here to Serve. Those were the 3 plots when I saw them. I said, well, those are going in every one of my decks. A free dude, a free location. They're all one-sided. How could it go wrong? And all 3 of them are definitely have never been in one of my decks, and maybe Summons is the only one I play, maybe Building Season in the very specific deck. But you're right. I mean, if I was playing Night's Watch, then I would probably play it, but I'll be honest, I'm pretty sure that's not true. I built one Night's Watch deck, but it was like a like 10 Night's Watch cards and then all Greyjoy cards or something crazy like that, and it was terrible. But yeah, I just haven't done it, so I don't play Here to Serve.
It's probably all right for now. There's not, like you said, other than Eamon, there's not anybody that's really worth a plot at this point.
So here's one: Filthy Accusations. This is a plot that not only did I play one of for a while, I used to play 2 of, not even just in Barrow decks, but in other decks, because it's super strong. It'd be like, all right, I've got a Balon. Well, he's knelt. Okay, well, you play Filthy in a random deck. Okay, whatever. Next turn. Filthy again. What? What kind of madness is this? You got 2 Filthies outside of Barra? So it's a highly impactful card. It's just as we've moved forward with better effects on characters, I've just felt like there's been easier ways to handle a guy than using a whole plot to handle someone temporarily.
Sure. I mean, that's natural. You know, as the game progresses, we're going to get better control options. We're going to get cards like the Martel Icon strippers. We're going to get even-handed justice. We're going to get things that you can really use to mess with your opponent's characters and not have to, like you said, burn a whole plot on them. But, you know, it still finds its way into decks that I play occasionally.
Yeah.
The 4 initiative's not terrible. The 4 gold's not terrible. And like you said, if you really need an answer, it's still there for you. But I agree, it's really sort of fallen out of favor.
Yeah, whenever someone plays it against me, I'm always surprised. Even in Barra, and I know a lot of people play it in Barra, I just don't. And I'm always kind of like, whoa, Filthy. That's right. That card exists. That's pretty good. Maybe I should look at that again. And then I do, and then it doesn't make it in.
Yep. So I have one more. I don't know how many, if you have any on your list, but I have one last one that was one that we definitely played a lot in the core set environment. And I think we may see it come back again, and that is Power Behind the Throne.
That's the one I have left.
Nice. So again, it's one of those things where as we've been moving to bigger characters and more econ, the non-economy plots have really had to do more than just stand one of your characters to fit in. They had to be like accounting coppers where you're getting 3 cards out of the deal. You're really getting something very impactful to give up a meaningful amount of gold. And the 3/1/1 stats on that are just haven't really cut it for a while now.
Yep. I totally agree. I used to play that plot in a lot of decks, especially when Barra was at its peak. It was such a great counter to all kinds of Barra shenanigans. And it's just really super strong with, like Bob or I don't know. I mean, how about Miri? Like, there's really good combos with that card. But like you said, you're giving up a lot to stand a guy. Just play Seal the Hand. Just play Illyrio. Those are better choices to stand guys than dedicating a whole plot. And that's one of the things that I've been moving towards, and we'll get to this a little bit later, is actually playing plots that do things. Like, feels really good to do plots, to use plots that do things. But before we go there, I want to talk about Valor, because we just talked about it a lot. And I've got a question for you. My stance on Valor is this may be the card that saves the game. And I know you may be watching and go, what do you mean saves the game? This game is great. My perspective is the game is not great. Like, I've been enjoying it, but I don't love it. I feel like something is missing, and I think this is the card that's missing. But I've heard a number of people, I'm not going to throw names around, but really top-level players who have said, I don't know. I don't think people are going to play Valor. I don't think it fits. The stats are too low at 2/0/0. It's not going to do enough. I'm curious what you think, Chris. Do you think Valor is going to be the plot that saves the game, or do you think it's not going to have much impact?
I mean, it's a very traditional sort of Tiny Grimes statement that saves the game or has no impact.
Yeah.
There's no middle ground, of course.
It's black or white. There's no grays in this world. What are you talking about?
Yeah, for me, I think both. First of all, I don't know that the game needs saving. I'm not as unhappy with it as some of the people that you're referring to, or potentially as yourself. But secondly, I would say that it itself, when played in game, when you put out Valor as your plot, it's not going to do as much as you expect it to. It's 2/0/0 still. The five reserve really hurts, and it's really not going to be quite the same as some people might remember it. But we've just talked for, like you said, 20 minutes about how Valor is going to change the game, and I think that's where it's going to change things. Is the presence of Valor, the existence of Valor, is going to cause shifts. It's going to cause people to rethink how they play in the game. It's going to cause people to reserve cards. They're not going to be, like you said, vomiting their hand everywhere, putting all their characters on the board. And I think that's where Valor is going to change. It's going to change deck construction to some degree, and it's going to change how people play in game. I don't know that it's going to change in terms of changing an individual game when it's played as much.
Yeah, I think it's going to be an interesting thing. Where I don't think it's going to change the game too much is like, let's say you're playing Lanny Dragon and your opponent's crushing you. You can't just play Valor and think you're fine. Right? It's probably not going to work out because the turn where you have 2 gold to reload the board, they have like 7 gold to reload the board. So what happens is they drop another impactful character and a Chud. You drop a Chud, you have no claim, your Chud dies, and now you're right back to where you were. So I definitely agree with that scenario. But what I think it will change a lot is that it gives room for more like a rope-a-dope style deck that can sort of fall behind and play a mini curve and not care about his characters as much and do interesting things like, say, a Martel Icon Remover deck where it's like sort of hanging in there, waiting for the right time to play Valor. It plays its Valor, it resets the board, over the next 2 turns, it reapplies icon removers to your smaller board, to your reduced hand, and it's able to sort of approach the game from a different perspective. And the same thing goes for Greyjoy. Like, Greyjoy can play this whole different game now, where it can be like, okay, here's the plan. 3 Risens, 3 Iron Mines, we're going to do offensive Valor. Like, that's my plan. I'm going to get far enough ahead where I offensive Valor and screw you. I still have a huge board. You have no board. Yes, I only have 2 gold and perhaps no claim, but maybe I have the Seastone Chair, and I do have secret claim. And I think that's going to be another big difference is there's a lot more claim replacement effects that can sort of mitigate this 0 claim. And so I think you're definitely right that it's not what some people think, where it's like, I just put Valor in my deck, I get behind, I play my Valor, and then I win. No, that's not going to happen. But you can build around it more, and you can also play around it. Like, you can play it in a more traditional deck, knowing, like, you know what, I'm just not going to play my good cards. You got a hot start. I'm going to take down the chin for 2 turns, not really play anything, and then sort of plan out when my Valor comes, and it'll be interesting.
Sure, yeah. I think the other interesting thing that's happened since the last time we saw it is the introduction of Reserve, where it's not going to be these games where people build up, 15 card hands where they can play everything they want as soon as Valor happens. They're still going to have to make relevant choices along the way between when they see that Valor is going to be necessary and when it actually happens.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's going to be more like saving a couple of characters and an event or something that will help you rather than like, okay, here we go, I got. And plus the econ's different, right? You can't have like 9 reducers on the board where you just go like, all right, Valor, I have 11 gold and 15 cards in hand. Like, you're not going to be able to do that. So I definitely agree. It's going to be different, but what I hope most is simply this, that the presence of Valor slows people down and makes them think. Like, do I really need to add Cersei to this board of Jaime, Tywin, Tyrion? Do I really need to drop Cersei and Luwin this turn? I mean, Cersei and Pycelle this turn. I really don't. I just don't need to. I'm not going to. I'm going to hold them back. And that stops the snowball effect to some degree where one player can just get this huge insurmountable lead and there's nothing you can do.
Yep.
So we'll see. That's my great hope for Valor. So let's cycle back. What do you think? Is Valor going to help or not?
Yes, I'm happy to see it back. I've been actually, in this may segue into our next topic, but I've actually been playing some games with it already.
So
and it's felt really good.
Oh, has it?
Nice.
Nice.
It's felt good to have it back, kind of like an old, like, worn blanket where you're just like, oh, welcome back, friend.
I'm so gonna cuddle up to Valor. I might make a blanket out of Valor. That would be pretty awesome. I'd bring it to tournaments. They're like, do you have Valor in your deck? I don't know. What do you think? I have a blanket made out of it.
I'm sure your wife and children would be happy sleeping under a blanket with skulls with a knife impaled through it on them.
You think I would let my wife and children near my beloved Valor blanket? What are you, crazy? What if they did something to it? All right. Moving on from madness. I want to talk about one last thing before we go, and that is decks that we've been playing or enjoying or testing. I'm going to start because it's going to be fast. Johnny Wright put up a post about a Martell Lion deck that he was playing that he liked a lot. I've been, somewhat bored with the play a big guy, put to the sword there, big guy meta, and since there is literally nothing to play for until at a minimum of November with a Wednesday schedule, I don't know if that screws me or not. The point is, minimum November, maybe not till like January. I got plenty of time to do things, people. So I decided I'm just going to play non-big character put to the sword decks. There will be no put to the swords in my deck, and there will be no Gregors and Tywins and things like that. So I played the Martell Lion deck. Chris, I love Game of Thrones again. Love it. It feels like I'm actually playing Game of Thrones. Every turn is like, decision point. Like thousands of decision points instead of like, I drew a Tywin. My opponent didn't. This is going to be great. Like actual plot decisions. Like all the plots only have 4 gold and do things. It's been really fun, and I encourage you that if you're kind of bored with the metagame, just try a deck like that. Try a deck that is approaching the game differently, whether it be, Night's Watch not doing anything, which personally is incredibly boring to me. But it's the Martell deck is so fun and annoying and oppressive that I was playing the other day against some people that admittedly weren't playing like the best decks. And it got to the point where they're like, I don't understand. How does anything beat this deck? Like, it's completely unbeatable. I was like, that's what I want to hear. Like, they couldn't figure out, like, they play a good guy, and they'd be like, you got Gregor. Oh, he's awesome. But you know what is really awesome? Imprisoned on Gregor. Sorry, man. That's a real bad beat there. We got Cersei. Oh, I tainted on her. Yeah, she's not as effective with just a power icon, is she? Womp womp. And then they die, and then I get them back and I reapply them. They're like, oh, that's just great. So, yeah, it's been tons of fun. Have you tried the Martell Lion deck much?
I played a couple games with it, and I want to play some more. I've been having to play a little wider variety of stuff for various reasons. But, yeah, I definitely have seen its appeal and want to try playing decks like that going forward. It's something that even going into this sort of lull, like you mentioned, I hadn't planned to go to Gen Con, although it looks like now I might. But so I had a similar situation where I didn't have anything until November, and I said, all right, I'm just gonna mess with weird stuff. I'm gonna try out Tyrell for the first time. I'm gonna try out Night's Watch and see what's there. Get familiar with these cards. Get familiar with offbeat strategies. Play smaller characters. Yep. More control decks. Try out Varys a couple times, although he seems kind of bad in general right now, for different reasons than that, which is disappointing. But hopefully he's not gone from the meta for good.
Yeah, hopefully my Martell deck wants Valor so badly. Like that would just fit in so beautifully into that deck. Like, oh, you 2.0'd me? Well, sorry, you guys are all dead now. So I think I did the math. I'm like 14-2 with the deck. One of the games I lost by flopping 1 gold. I flopped a 1 gold reducer and a Rose Road. So that's a tough, and it was against Bruno. So that's a tough slog back.
Yes.
And then another person had been playing 2 weeks, did not really know how to play, but got the whole Lannister family out by turn 2. And I also helped him. Like I tiersed his Cersei after pulling her icon just to start whittling down the iron mines, and he's like, dang it, oh man, and kills her. And I was like, he's crushing me, but this would be ridiculous. So you do have iron mines on the board. Oh, I do. Oh, I'm gonna use one. I was like, that's probably good. Yeah,
good choice.
And shockingly I lost. But it's been tons of fun, and I've fallen back in love with Thrones through this deck. What worries me is that it's not quite the best deck, and you know how I am, Chris. Like, it doesn't matter if I'm having fun. If it's not the deck, if it's not the best deck, I'm not playing it. So, how about yourself? What have you been doing? I know you are going to an amazing event this weekend. Why don't you tell us real quick about this event before you talk about the deck that you're prepping for it?
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned Johnny Wright. He seems to be in the news a lot recently.
He is the news.
He is the news. Johnny
It's
Wright.
Huey Lewis and the Johnny Wrights.
If he didn't already have a nickname, I'd go with it. So it is his birthday on Sunday. So
48th. Big
advance
4-8.
slash past happy birthday to him.
Mm-hmm.
But for his birthday, he decided he wanted to have himself a little Thrones tournament and make a special environment. And this was before even the announcement came out that Valor was going to be in the card pool again. We'd heard hints of it. Um,
Interesting.
we'd heard some hints. Nate had said, it'll probably come back at some point. It's kind of integral to the game, but we didn't know when. We didn't know it would be this soon, or if it would be in a box or a cycle. But he said, I want to have a tournament for my birthday. I'm going to make a band list, and we're going to make Valor legal. And he had some proposed stats for it for his tournament. I think it was going to be like a 3005. So he was pretty close. Maybe in a 3006. But he was close enough. And then the announcement came out, and he said, well, let's use real stats. Why not? So the tournament is going to be Valor will be legal. It'll be the current card pool, and it will have a ban list of 3 cards. It's banning Tywin, it's banning Tyrion, and it's banning the Iron Mines. So it's a little bit wacky because you don't have that sort of safety net of the saves, and you don't have the sort of autoplay Lannister stuff that you might have otherwise.
That's really weird to me to not have Iron Mines. Like, hey, here's half the point to play Greyjoy. Oh, you don't get to use that. So, I don't know. It's just a weird idea, but cool. It sounds like a lot of fun. So what are you playing at this event, Chris?
Well, I'd
Greyjoy? You got big balls?
Say again?
You're going to go Greyjoy Fealty with the big balls?
I don't believe I'm going to play Greyjoy Fealty now.
Aw, that's too bad.
Although they still have Risen from the Sea, so and they have We Do Not Sow, which might actually be a very relevant card in this format. So it's not a terrible choice. I did consider Greyjoy for a while. I had settled on a Tyrell Banner to the Sun deck to try and leverage the Arbor and play kind of a similar deck to that Martell Lion deck where it's a lot of little guys resetting the board. I had Varys in that deck, things like that, and then just outgold them with the Arbor and outdraw them with Pleasure Barge. But then yesterday at our game night at the store, a couple people that are also going to this tournament were there, and one of them happened to already have that built and was testing it. So I was like, well, I can't play the same deck as everybody else. And by
One
everybody else, I
person
mean that one
equals
specific
everybody
person.
else?
Exactly. It did happen to be Johnny, so it's his tournament. I don't want to.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
So I was mulling it over today, and I think I'm going to go with a Martell main house, and then play Banner to the Stag, and that Neo package, and put in Scene in Flames, and go with some hardcore hand destruction, and try and punish people for over saving for Valor.
I like it. I like it a lot. So you punish them with Valor if they don't save, and if they do save, you pull all the cards out of their hand.
Right, yeah.
That
And of course, you still have Gaston Gray if they put down dupes. You still have, all the usual Martell tricks. And so it looks pretty neat having duplication of that control effect on their hand between Scene and Flames and Viper Eyes is something I've wanted to do. It seemed like overkill for a while here, but I think this is the format for it.
And Mel will be really fun in this format because it's like, when do you play her, right? Do you play her turn 1 to start getting some kneel, knowing you plan on Valoring, knowing your opponent probably has Valor? Do you wait until like you Valor, and then on that Valor turn, maybe you have like a King's Road and you're able to play Mel to kneel their guy, and then they Valor Mel? It's gonna be really fascinating to see how Mel fits into this package, unless you get lucky and find 2 Mels early, which would be quite great.
Right, and then it's a little easier.
Ooh, you know what? I just thought of something. What about, and I'm not saying you should do that here, but Tyrell Stag in this environment seems really cool because you can get Mel, and then you have those 3 lading and waitings. Like, you can fetch Mel, with the
go.
knight. You got
That,
lady in waitings. You got bodyguards galore for her, basically.
that's kind of cool.
I like that. All right, well, there you go. There's another deck for anyone who is playing in John Wright's crazy format.
And, and is hearing this podcast
Yeah,
before the
which will
tournament.
not be released before the event, so it's gonna be tough. It's gonna be a small audience there. All
It's
right.
not zero though. It's a non-zero number, which is
Yeah.
funny.
So it sounds like a really fun deck, and hope you do well. I will admit that it's not the first time I've heard of this deck. I was helping Chris build this a bit, and it sounds like a deck I'd really like to play. If I was going to that event, I would be playing that deck with a smile too. Like I might lose some games, but I'd still be smiling
Yeah.
as I was losing them, which is real hard for me to do.
Definitely looking forward to it.
All right, Chris. Well, thanks so much for coming on. It was great. It was a blast from the past having you come back to Summer is Coming. And I won't try to pin you down for more episodes, but we'll see what we can do later. Try not to burn the place down on the way out, though.
All right, sounds good. Thanks for having me, Tiny.
All right, we'll see you next time on Summer is Coming.